Hey, welcome to another Businessology lesson. And you might be listening to this. These are shorter weekly podcasts, but if you want, you can go to our YouTube channel and you can watch these online as well. For this lesson, we're going to talk about assessing your team's capacity. Capacity is a key to how creative services companies work, right? Because all the revenue you bring in has to match the capacity of team to perform that revenue. And if you don't get that, what we call that exchange matched up correctly, we're actually exchanging client revenue for team's capacity. We're exchanging that in our work. If you don't get that right, you could have overwhelmed team or unhappy clients. A lot of things can happen from that. So assessing your team's capacity can be complicated, but we like to boil it down and first of all, describe team's capacity. What is it? We call it M.E.L.T, M-E.L.T. And what that stands for is mind, the mind of the team member, how clearly they think, their emotional state, emotions play into the capacity of team. And then L and T are location and time. So when we talk about capacity, a lot of people think it's just the T, time. Capacity equals their time. Well, that's not true because you have humans on your team, and these humans are well-rounded people. They mentally think in certain ways, they're emotional, and even the location in which we work affects our output and our capacity. So a lot of times what we teach our creative entrepreneurs is M.E.L.T scoring on their team. And basically the way you do that is giving M.E.L.T discounts. So if you're thinking about a team and you can now assess that team member and their, how well they're performing in their capacity, you can think about, are they struggling mentally? Are they struggling to focus on their work? Are they struggling to understand the work that they're supposed to be accomplishing? Could be things in their personal life that are affecting them, and so you always want to consider that. Team members' personal lives always come to work with them, so we can't think about humans anymore as separate people. They are always in the same bucket, personal and professional. And so that's why mind is something to consider. Emotional is really, they could be unhealthy emotionally, right? And a lot of people are struggling after the pandemic. We all have those struggles. So emotionally, they could be going through some traumatic things in their personal lives. So that really affects their capacity. And then if you have a virtual agency and your team work at home, a lot of times you need to watch out because that location can affect their capacity. And then time, of course, are they able to devote a 40-hour week full-time or a part-time work to their work? And so the way we think about capacity is you always assess capacity not by the whole agency, but it's assessed by person. You look at a person on your team member and you assess their M.E.L.T score. And let's assume a 100% score is they're running on all cylinders, right? Mind is clear, emotion is not distracting them, location is perfect for them to output capacity, and their time commitment is great, meaning they're not disappearing or things like that. So 100%, right? They're running on 100%. We would always tell our agency leaders, you want to give at least a 5 to 7% discount, right? So everybody's running on a 92 to 95% all cylinders, right? And that's somebody that's doing great. But there are teams, if you discount their M.E.L.T score, sometimes we'll pull them down 10, 15%. And we can say now, for that one person that's struggling, we can say, I'm going to assess they're at an 80 or 85% M.E.L.T score. We've given them that 15 to 20% discount because they're struggling so hard in one of those 4 M.E.L.T areas. So that's a practical way to think about capacity because it's such an ethereal concept. That gives you some way to score it. Now what you can do is on a leadership team or even your partner group, you can assign M.E.L.T scores to team members and then see if those go up or down depending on how those team members are struggling or able to focus. So one other thing about capacity is that each human is not able to properly assess their own capacity. And what that means is you can't ask a team member generally, how is your M.E.L.T score? So it's not something they assign to themselves. It's something you make an external third-party objective assessment about their capacity with a M.E.L.T score. A team member often can't rightly see their own struggles. And maybe that you understand that, right? That's why we have counselors, therapists. It's a third party that's able to help us see more clearly the things we're struggling with. So as people, we all have our own lenses. Sometimes we have our own traumas. We have a lot of things that distort the reality view of ourselves and our work and our worth. Sometimes we beat ourselves up and think we're worse than we actually are, right? That somebody else would say. Sometimes we think we're better than we are. So people don't assess their own capacity. So keep that in mind. A leader that is as objective as you can get is somebody that can assess their team's capacity per person. And now that's true for you as the agency leader, as the owner. You also have your own lenses, and it's hard for you to assess your own capacity. So the way we tackle this capacity assessment, one way we do it, there's a lot of different ways. We don't track time in our firm, and a lot of agencies do, but what we do is we have our team put their work on a calendar, and it's always a week in advance. So we're always looking out to the future, and we're watching that team member prioritize their work. That's the way we assess capacity. We're assessing capacity by watching them place the priorities and how much time their work will take on a calendar in the future. That gives us so many insights as to what that team member thinks their work is going to look like. Now, this is a skill that gets better and better because the teams start doing it, and it's very difficult for them to do it first. It's hard to start defining and bucketing your work into hours, but you get better at this, right? You start to really learn your work, and then you learn how to prioritize it. You learn what to put at the front of the week on Monday, what to put towards Friday. And you're helping now this team member get better at assessing their own capacity by simply blocking a future week on a calendar. So these are some concepts you can use to manage and assess the capacity of your team. I hope that's helpful. Thanks for joining us on a Businessology lesson.